My friends. So it's been a while since I posted something lengthy. I've been traveling and it's been very busy, but I'm happy to be back here speaking to you. And today I thought, because a lot of people are asking me, is there one key to healing? Is there one key to self-healing? And so I thought, let me share with you what I think is the one key to self-healing. And of course, if you want to get into details and know more about the healing self, then this is the book that I did with Rudy Tanzi. It's called The Healing Self, a revolutionary new plan to supercharge your immunity and stay well for life. But now let's get to the one key for all healing. Thank you, by the way, for all your lovely comments here and for your feedback. And if you're enjoying this, then keep sending those beautiful hearts to me and share this with others as well. So what's the key to self-regulation, self-healing? Well, I just said it, self-regulation. Self-regulation, or what is called homeostasis. So before I explain what that really translates into, let me tell you what I mean by self-regulation and homeostasis. So homeostasis is a word used in biology to talk about the constancy of our biological environment, frequently referred to as milieu interior. So the body maintains, the physical body maintains a state of dynamic non-change in the midst of change. This is called homeostasis, dynamic non-change in the midst of change, which means everything stays within a certain range: blood sugar, blood pressure, heart rate, hormone levels, immune function, everything stays within a certain range. And this is due to what in biology we call feedback loops. So every biological activity is governed by what are called feedback loops. So if you have too much of anything, let's say your blood sugar goes up and goes up a lot, then immediately in response to that, there's a cascade of events that happens. Insulin kicks in, and if too much insulin kicks in, then glucagon kicks in. There's a kind of a relationship between hormones, cortisol, insulin, growth hormone, and blood sugar. It's a dance. So these self-regulatory loops in biology are called feedback loops. What is organizing these feedback loops? What is it that organizes this self-regulation? And if you followed me so far with all the things that I have said over the years and written over the years, then this self-regulation is governed by the self. And what is self? What is the self? The self is pure consciousness. And what is pure consciousness? Pure consciousness is consciousness in a state of perfect equilibrium, which means no fluctuations and no dynamic activity in pure consciousness. It's a state of pure potentiality. Pure consciousness is always a field of infinite possibilities, infinite correlation, which means everything is in the body is correlated with everything else. All these feedback loops are perfectly in harmony with all the other feedback loops. So these feedback loops are in synchronicity, or what I would like to say, non-local correlation, although a lot of biologists say that, oh, that doesn't happen in a warm system like the human biology or a biological organism or in the brain. But I do believe that everything in the body that is happening as an activity is correlated and non-locally correlated. I know I'll be criticized for this, but this non-local correlation governs everything from morphogenesis to differentiation, how the one cell becomes the 60 trillion cells, how the chemical reactions in our body and all the hormones and immune function and all the other activities in the body are not only self-regulating, but they are in harmony with all the other self-regulation that's going on. And so when consciousness is basically in a perfect state of perfect equilibrium without any fluctuations, then it automatically goes back to what is called baseline. And that baseline activity is self-regulation, homeostasis, or healing. The word healing is the same as the word holy, wholeness. And wholeness means that the whole body operates as one system. So even though we divide the body into different parts, that is based on a materialistic interpretation. What we call parts, including liver, kidney, heart, brain, stomach, the immune system, endocrine system, these parts are actually not parts. They are patterns of behavior that are part of the whole. So they are patterns of behavior that are activities of the whole. I shouldn't have said part of the whole. They are activities of the whole. And this activity of the whole is with perfect precision and perfect self-regulation. This is the state of least entropy, which is baseline activity of consciousness. But of course, we are never in baseline activity of consciousness unless we're in deep sleep or in samadhi. Samadhi means when there is no subject-object split. When we return to the original non-local state of consciousness. So what disturbs that is self-interaction. You know, pure consciousness interacts with its own self in order to have an experience. And that experience could be a thought, it could be an emotion, it could be a perception, it could be an image, it could be a feeling, it could be a sensation. This is how pure consciousness, by self-interaction, splits itself into subject-object. And subject-object operates at every level. So there are hormones, there are receptors to hormones. Hormone, the ligand, can be thought of as a message from the subject, and the receptor is the object, and then the receptor feeds back on the ligand, and this loop is perfectly orchestrated. But as soon as consciousness self-interacts to create subject-object split at every level, macro, micro, molecular, energy, information, and ultimately consciousness, then that fluctuation of consciousness that results in experience, sensations, sense perceptions, images, feelings, thoughts, that takes us out of the state of perfect equilibrium into what we can call entropy and the experience of time. So the experience of time and entropy are actually the same thing. And when we experience timeless being and we experience no flow of time, when we are transcending, when we are just resting in being or resting in awareness or resting in existence without interpretation, then we go back in the direction of homeostasis and self-regulation and healing. So think of two extremes. One extreme is perfect self-regulation, and the other extreme is a lot of stress and therefore inflammation. And in life, we move from this direction, which is perfect equilibrium, to this direction, which is entropy, the flow of time, ultimately aging and disorder and death. That's an experience that we have, a qualia experience, a qualia program that we call life. But existence is prior to that. Existence is pure potentiality that then differentiates into experience, subject, object, and the rest of it. And yes, your body is a process all the time. And being a process and a dynamic process, it is self-regulating. So then what's the key? The key is, one, rest in being periodically, rest in existence, rest in awareness without interpretation, just being. Of course, meditation and mindful awareness practices, which means being totally in the present moment, having no resistance, having no regrets, having no anticipation, being in flow, peak experiences, those bring us closer to homeostasis, as does deep sleep, and to some extent, as does dreams, because dreams are the release of stressful psychological experiences, emotional experiences from what we in wisdom traditions call the subtle body or the subtle self. There's the causal self, which is beyond that. Okay, so deep rest, as in sleep and dream state, meditation, resting in being, awareness, and existence without interpretation, being in flow, transcendence, peak experiences, always move us in the direction of self-regulation and healing. The opposite extreme, of course, is stress and inflammation. A lot of fluctuation and no fluctuation. A lot of fluctuation and no fluctuation. But having said that, there are other things that are equally important. Emotions such as love, compassion, joy, equanimity. Why is that? Because emotions such as love, compassion, joy, equanimity move us from the separate or divided or fragmented self into the direction of the unified self. And the unified self is, once again, the state of least entropy and the state of timeless being. Therefore, these emotions, divine emotions, love, compassion, joy, equanimity, are important. Also, it's very important. Kara says she loves her Dreamweaver 3.0. Thank you, Kara. Okay, so I mentioned sleep, dreams, transcendence, self-regulation, meditation, mindfulness, peak experiences, joy, total equanimity, peace of mind. This is what brings about self-regulation, therefore healing. Of course, then, you can't stay in this state all the time. If you stayed in this state all the time, then your body would start to atrophy, because body needs a shift from pure silence to dynamic activity. Not stressful activity, but dynamic activity that is not stressful. So exercise, mind-body coordination through practices like yoga and Tai Chi and Qigong and breathing. These always enhance self-regulation, particularly by stimulating the vagus nerve, which allows the parasympathetic nervous system to go into activity. Most people are basically in sympathetic overdrive, in the fight-flight response, the reactive response, and therefore always entropy, inflammation, and time sickness. Okay, so emotions are very important. Also, food. Any food that is close to the ground, comes from the earth, has lots of phytochemicals derived from the energy of the sun. That kind of food is most effective in facilitating healing. Phytochemicals, but no food that is artificially produced or has chemicals or hormones or antibiotics or petroleum products. All these will destroy what we call the microbiome, which is 99% of the genetic information in the body. So Ella and a few others constantly are reminding me to talk about ayahuasca. Ayahuasca and other, what should I call them, other medicines from plants that are considered to be what should I say, hallucinogens, although I don't like the word hallucinogen, but that's how they've been termed. But these are drugs that actually edit out a lot of the conditioned responses that we have, and they open the window to non-locality. So yes, under supervision and under the wise counseling and guidance of a shaman or a healer, they can be very effective in breaking conditioned responses and stressful habitual thinking. So thank you for reminding me to talk about that. In summary then, sleep, meditation and stress management, movement, exercise, mind-body coordination, yoga, breathing, number 3, healthy emotions, and then nourishment for the body and for the soul, nourishment in a way that restores the integrity of your microbiome, and finally being in touch with nature and grounding yourself and reducing the excess free radicals that build up every day as a result of disruption of circadian rhythms. And we call that grounding these days, and there are devices that can help you do this. So if you want to go really into these ideas in detail, then my book with Rudy Tanzi, The Healing Self, will guide you. In the meanwhile, focus on the 6 pillars that I suggested, and our Jio app, J-I-Y-O, it will also guide you there into all these techniques, and you can check it out, jiyo.com, and it is basically free of charge, and I hope you will take advantage of this ecosystem that we have created on jiyo.com to help create a more peaceful, just, sustainable, healthier, and joyful world. The great wisdom traditions say that all human suffering comes from the misperception of the separate self. We are not separate. At the most fundamental level, we are inseparable. And when we experience inseparability of existence, then we are holy and we are healed. Marcella says she's reading the book right now. Thank you, Marcella. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Colleen. Um, thank you, Jennifer, for helping us spread the word. The name of the app is Jiyo.com, Jiyo.com. Salongo says suffering is emotional. Yes, pain is physical, but suffering is emotional. Good insight. She also says suffering is optional. Well, yes and no. At some point, we all grow old, we have infirmity, and then there is death. And a lot of people suffer in this phase of life unless they know how to get in touch with the timeless being, which is not subject to birth and death. Hence the importance, once again, of transcendence and getting in touch with our deeper inner being, the source of all healing and the source of everything, every experience that we have in life. Okay, thank you. Once again, in case you're interested, the book is The Healing Self by me and my dear friend and brother, Rudy Tanzi. Thank you.